Hi folks, this is Salim Sufi here. Welcome to the third session of Becoming Authentic Leader. So we have already covered a lot of this topic in the first two sessions, and the third session is usually an expert session where we usually bring an expert from outside. But since we have not yet been able to cover all the contents ourselves, so I thought that probably we could continue with the topics left over, which are more important to cover before we finish this topic. So we are continuing like that. Now, as I explained you before, that I will start with few contents, and if any question, you can keep dropping in the question box, and I would review them frequently, and I will try to answer as much as possible. So before we proceed with this remainder of this topic, I want to cover a few things with you. So this is the third session, third and last episode of the authentic leadership topic we are covering today. And then we'll start September schedule. September will cover a very important topic which is related to becoming a finance business partner. I'm not sure if everybody is familiar with this term, but this term is becoming more and more important and popular because these are the finance professionals who work closely with the business partner. Usually it's the CFOs always work with the business, but if you are a controller and your title is business controller or even financial controller, you usually work with another business person who could be head of the business division or another person from the business where you work closely with them. And many times you have the dual responsibility, dual reporting lines where you're reporting to the CFO as well as to the business person. Now with the increasing complexity of the business models, there is more and more requirement and demand from the business people towards finance people to really help them. And not only that, finance business partners, but most of the time many people from finance and accounting are supposed to help business people on different matters. So finance business partner has become a term which is usually describe the role of finance and accounting people working with business people, and this is an skill set and ability which is in high demand. I remember until last year I was tracking that what is the career path among the finance and accounting people which goes to the top CFO level, and most of the time it was the people from the controlling side, the financial controller mainly, or sometimes the people who are involved with accounting, they would go most often to the CFO role. Now lately in the last couple of years the trend has changed, and now more and more finance business partners, the people in finance and accounting who has more exposure to the business and more involvement with the business, are really going more conveniently and more frequently towards the CFO role. And the reason is, as I said earlier, that business models are becoming complex. And not only that, there is more and more demand from the business side to finance and accounting professionals to help them, but also those people who are very well versed, very familiar with the business models and business processes and environment. They are more than accountant actually. They are in high demand. And CFO role has developed to a level of complexity where not only the financial and accounting expertise, but a lot of business expertise is required. And that is where the business processes and business modeling and strategy comes up. And as you probably know, that I'm also running a program on the side which is called the Strategic CFO program. This is mainly for the senior finance professionals who want to really develop their strategic insight and expertise. So back to the finance business partner. In these sessions next month in September, we'll cover this topic thoroughly, and as you know that we usually have 3 sessions, so we'll see how do we cover this, but this is a very important topic for you to cover. Then for the rest of the year in October, we'll move to advanced career planning and job search strategies. This is again itself has become a very important topic for people to understand because experts are saying that for the younger professionals, they will make 12 to 15 changes in their career from job to job. So whether you want to change a job or not, you are expected to really have those changes over your career lifetime. So it becomes also very important that we understand how to really manage and plan our career. And also, job search is not a once in a lifetime activity. Many people are doing again and again. And it's not really very challenging or difficult, but you need to learn it, how to do it. And I see very often there are people who are really looking for jobs for 2 years and haven't been able to really get a single interview. And at the same time, I see other people really getting multiple offers. So it's not the job market, it's really you need to change. In November, we will touch the topic of workplace politics or office politics, as you call it. Now, this is a topic which is not taught in the business school, which is not talked about much in the business circles, but it exists each and every organization in some manner. So, so I brought this topic here to share with you some realities. As you know, that I have a lot of experience working in different cultures, different regions, different size of organization, and especially with different ethnic groups. So there is some natural politics always, but you must understand how to really manage it and work it in your favor. Finally, for this year in December, we'll touch upon a very important topic of strategic thinking. So many people want to become a strategist or a strategic expert, and they don't realize that first they need to work on their own strategic mind, how to develop a strategic thinking and create a strategic mind. So we'll cover that topic in December. So I just wanted to show you this is scheduled for the rest of the year. And for September, this coming month, our schedule would be, we'll start with 16th September, which is Saturday. So the first session would be 16th September, second on 23rd September, and third would be 30th. So we have probably 2 weeks gap between now and before we start September schedule. So hopefully we'll start on the 16th September with this exciting topic of becoming finance business partners. Okay. So as I said that you can, if you have anything to share, comment or questions, just drop in the question box. And it's right in front of me, and I'll take it up from there and try to answer and get back to you. Okay, we have basically covered a lot on this topic of authentic leadership. So this is my master presentation, so you will see all the slides here. Let me just scroll through it. So we covered with the authentic leadership model and a little bit about the life visioning, and then we touch upon the character and competence and life journey, and 6 mindset and vision and culture, organizational culture, how to change it, how to handle it, and then 7 habits framework. And then last session, we pretty much quite in detail try to understand how the brain functions and how could we use our left brain and right brain to work in our favor. I hope that was useful. And if you have not been able to really go deep into it, then you have all the recordings. It's really worthwhile to really, even if you have attended, just go through that lecture once again, and that would give you a lot of clarity. Finally, last session, we also discussed a very powerful concept of circle of control, circle of influence, and circle of concern. Now, today, we need to cover a couple of topics, and the first topic is 6 styles of leadership. Now, this is from very popular model of leadership, and this is from Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman is the living legend, an expert and authority on emotional intelligence, and he has several books written on that topic. I think I have suggested you a couple of books from him. And his model is very well accepted in the business circles, and that is how people understand what role they are in and what role they should be. So there are 6 models, starting with the commanding, democratic, affiliative, coaching, visionary, and pace setting. And I'll explain each of them. You can look a brief synopsis here on this chart, 6 styles, and where they are suitable, where they are not. So the first traditional leadership style is more like commanding, more like controlling. And the requirement of this model is it demands immediate compliance, and in the second box you can see a phrase which would basically give you the flavor of this style. Do what I tell you, right? It's not very common, by the way. It's very much there in the military and armed forces because they require it. They require a commanding leadership structure, but it also exists to an extent in the public organizations like governments. But in private sector or business, it has quite a change, and there are few examples of this model, but not very successful examples. So that's the first historically very strong traditional model to run the organizations from a leadership positions. Second model listed here is more popular, more acceptable, more modern, which is called visionary. Visionary style is basically inspire people. Here the leader has a vision of the future, vision of the future for the organization or for the people, and his leadership style excites people. Come with me. That is what the message comes from leader, and the people follow that leader. Very popular, very successful style. You could actually see at the bottom of this slide whether this style is acceptable, negative, positive. So commanding style is negative, but when you look at the visionary, it says most strongly positive. So very popular. And big business leaders like Steve Jobs or Jack Welch, they are considered visionary leaders. Next style is affiliative. Affiliative is really working with the people, create harmony and build emotional bonds. So it's relationship. And it talks about people come first. So before anything, it is people who are more important. So everything is done from a people's point of view. And this is also considered positive. Then the next style is democratic. Democratic, we all understand. This is very accepted standard in the government or public leadership, but also in the organizations. It's basically forges consensus. Do what more people want to do, and don't do which more people don't want to do. So it seeks involvement and participation from the people. What do you think? That type of thing. Next style is pace setting. Pace setting is also close to visionary. Pace setting basically leading by example, that you set high standards and you basically ask people to follow those standards, and you demonstrate by showing that type of performance. Do as I do now. But this is also not considered a positive model because it demands performance from the people. Finally, you see in the right side column coaching. This is also very popular, very positive model, and it basically focuses on development of people for the future. And it's very comfortable style, something like try this. So it's not demanding, it's not really seeking their advice, it's basically giving them an opportunity to use that style and see what results comes up. So these are the 6 common leadership styles. A question is that which one is better one or best one, and which one is not good, and more importantly, what is your leadership style? So you may be having a managerial or leadership position, you may not be having a leadership or managerial position, but even without a leadership or managerial position, you could still judge what is your style, where you feel more comfortable. And I'll share with you my experience. As I said that I have a long career and I work different organizations. My dominant leadership style, I would say, has been visionary and coaching. In the initial part of my career, first half, I would say, I was more like visionary. Visionary doesn't mean that you create a vision for the entire organization. You see a vision of something, and then you basically talk about it with a passion, and you try to make it happen with the help of other people and other support systems. That's visionary. So I was very passionate about really improving the business processes, implementing improvement process like activity-based costing, then later on balanced scorecard. So that really gave me that opportunity to practice my visionary leadership. Later on, my leadership style switched more to coaching because more and more people were working for me. And I have learned a lot which I could share with my people. So coaching worked very well for me. The reason I'm sitting here as your coach in this coaching session is that this is what I do much better than anything else, and this is what I enjoy. So I ended up shifting my career towards this coaching, which I'm doing now full time. As a CFO, what leadership style is really most practical and most suitable? And my answer is there is not one. CFO role requires different styles in different situations. And even the worst style like commanding, you have to practice many times as CFO. So as I said that I was more like visionary and really coaching and very flexible and very sometimes affiliative as well. But sometimes as a successful CFO, you have to be commanding. I'll share one quick story with you. In one organization, I was working with the CEO. Of course, as a CFO, you have to work with the CEO. And I took a day off. And on that day, the CEO wanted to see me. Of course, I was not there. So that CEO went to the sales accountant or a receivable accountant and asked him to book a sales, which should not be booked. It was against the revenue recognition principles. But because the CEO was very powerful, that person, and I was not there, that person booked the sale. But what he did, he sent me an email because he was suspicious and doubtful that whether he should do it or not. He sent me an email. And I said, okay, I'll take care of tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning when I went there, I looked at the transaction and that was wrong. From the accounting principles, the revenue recognition rules were not fulfilling. So I asked him to reverse that transaction without asking the CEO, because that was my authority to accept the transaction or not, and by accounting principles, it was not supposed to be accepted. So I became a sort of commanding, and I commanded him that, look, reverse the transaction, I'll handle with the CEO. And after doing that intentionally, then I went to the CEO and told him that, look, this was the wrong transaction because of this, and I have already reversed it. So I did not seek his permission. Okay, should I revert him or not? I used my authority. He was my boss, but I have to show my authority on this matter. That there are things as a CFO, I cannot change my my direction or what we need to do. And that was one example. Now, but that's not my dominant style. My dominant style is still very affiliative and visionary and coaching. At other times, when it comes to the same situation like booking a sales, and I remember that this was related to the credit limit of a customer. That customer was late in payment. So based on the internal control rules, internal company policy, we were not supposed to really book new order for sales. And at that time, I knew that the sales general manager wanted to book that sales, CEO also wanted to book the sales because this is the end of the month and they were in the demand, in the pressure of really book the sales. So realizing that, I allowed that transaction to be booked because that was only internal policy. And I have the authority to bypass or change that policy or bypass it. So I use that. So I showed my flexibility as well. So this is exactly what you need to do practically, that you may have a dominant style. Of course, I'm not suggesting that you have a commanding style, but affiliative, visionary, coaching, or whatever. But then you need to really change your style from situation to situation based on the requirement and demand of the particular situation or nature of the incident, because that is what your role should be as a CFO. Now, one thing I would like to advise here, that I'm not a big supporter or advocate of the democratic style of management or leadership. Democratic sounds good, but in business organization, it really does not work. Because if you ask the opinion of every person, you're going to waste a lot of time and you're not going to get the right feedback or opinion. I mean, even today, democratic style is even not working for the public sector. I mean, you see some of the very questionable people in the very powerful leadership positions because of the democratic process, but definitely it does not work in the business. So with all due respect, I would say that don't try to apply the democratic leadership style. It's a lot of waste of time. And see what is the natural style for you. Is that visionary or affiliative or coaching? These are basically the three styles which you should really adopt. And sometimes because of the nature of the job as a CFO, you have to use commanding style as well. Here is a guideline. As I said, that is really based on the situation. You have to change your style a little bit. When it comes to your people, your staff, and you may have a small staff like 5-6 people, or you may have a large staff like 20-30 people, and those people may have a different profile and different needs from you as a leader. So the framework, you are looking at your screen now, look at the dimensions on the right side and top side. So on the top you see individual competency. These are the staff member. Either their competency is high or low, right? So from right to left you see low to high. Then on the right side you see their level of motivation. Either they are highly motivated at the bottom or not that high motivated on the top side. What you see on the left side and the bottom, this is your behavior as a leader or as a manager. And you could be more at the bottom, you could be more directive, all the time directing your staff from low directive to high directive level, or you may be supportive from low support level to high support level. So in these four situations, let's start from the bottom left, which is delegating. In the bottom left, assuming that the staff you have is highly competent and highly motivated. Now they practically don't need you. So what you need to do, you need to delegate them, delegate responsibility. They don't require much support. They don't require much direction. They are competent and highly motivated. They are good. They are good on their own. So just delegate them. This is the bottom left side. Now where they need your support, take to the left upper side box, supporting. These people are high in competency but low in motivation. High competency, low motivation. They need your support. They are competent, highly competent, so they don't need your direction, but they need your support because they are not highly motivated. So that model is for those people. On the right bottom side, you see the box directing. These are the people who are highly motivated but low in competency. They're not competent, they're highly motivated, but their high motivation would not really deliver results unless you help them. So you need to be giving them high directive and low support. Support they don't need. They are motivated, they want to work, they want to grow, but they need some direction. So you will be more directing. And then the people who basically really need your support and direction both are the people who are low in motivation and low in competency. Now, in my opinion, many times these people are really have difficulty to grow. Now you can do coaching with them, which will help, but coaching is not only reserved for these people. They definitely need a lot of help, but coaching is not only for this type of people based on this model. Coaching works with everyone. Coaching you can also apply to the highly motivated, highly competent model. In my opinion, in my learning and experience, coaching works with every type of person, because coaching really, the best benefit of coaching is create a deep level of trust. When you are the manager or leader and you show your behavior in such a manner, you try to coach them, and if it is genuine, they believe that you are trying to help them on a personal level, not as official authority, because you want to coach them, you want to develop them, you want to help them in their career. And that deep level of trust, when you create and establish in your relationship, everything else becomes easy. Everything else becomes so easy. Then you can assign them high level of targets, and they are motivated themselves. They want to achieve it because they know they will learn from it. They would grow out of it because they trust you. Whatever you tell them, whatever you do with them, they trust you. So that model is very, very successful. Now, not necessarily it would work with everyone. You need to really evaluate your style also. So we we talked about emotional intelligence last time, and I have sent you a couple of links to really make a quick self-assessment on the emotional intelligence. So see yourself, your journey of really creating self-awareness is start with the first assessment and see where you are. So that's one way you could develop your style and your behavior. And the other thing we are going to discuss is the Myers-Briggs personality type today. You will also be able to test that model as well. So those things, if you do that, you would be able to really start understanding your more your style, leadership style, and your leadership model that would best work for you. Based on certain observation and surveys, a visionary style is the most successful, most popular, and that has the most positive impact on the culture of the organization. Coaching is next, and so this comes very close. And as you can see, the commanding style really the least popular or have the bad impact or the worst impact on the organization, and the other models are in between. So when it comes to the coaching and mentoring, couple of suggestions from my personal experience. Whatever position you are a manager, you are a senior manager, you are a director, you are a CFO, try to become a role model for your staff. Because once you put demands on you, your behavior would change. These people need your help, and probably you know more in terms of the leadership, how to become a leader, and everybody deserves to really grow their career and progress in their career. So as a boss, as a leader, as a manager, you are supposed to help them. So try to become a role model for your staff. Do things which inspire them. Now, to demonstrate that, what you should do, not only all the time giving instructions to complete the work, but also try to do some group coaching and group training sessions for them. So in your area of expertise, whatever it is, and if you think that that knowledge and training would help your staff, just do a voluntary training or coaching, group coaching. I did a lot of trainings for my staff and other staff outside finance, even sometimes senior management team, on strategy and balance scorecard, because I thought this is the area I have a strong knowledge, and if I share, they would benefit, and they really appreciate it. Also, in addition to that, a training called Finance for Non-Finance. I did that several times, and non-finance people really appreciate that. That not only gives you a feeling of fulfillment and satisfaction, it basically establishes your brand for other people, and they started to look you very positively. If you have direct staff reports, try to develop a habit of meeting them one-on-one every week. So every week, set up a meeting one-on-one for half an hour or 1 hour, whatever your time permits. And that, from your point of view, that should be listening meeting. That's an opportunity for your staff to be open up with you. That not only would give you a very updated information about what is happening in the organization and department, but it would also develop a very deep level of relationship with your staff members, because when they meet with you one-on-one, it's really one-on-one relationship, and they could talk comfortably whatever they want to. They may complain if you allow it, and they may really tell you some information which they may not be comfortable in a group setting. Also, to further strengthen your brand of a coach, try to connect your staff to be mentored by senior executive members. Your staff, don't try to coach and mentor them, because you have a boss and subordinate relation. Now you can do some formal trainings, but don't try to become a mentor for your staff. If they need it, try to connect them with other senior executives. So for example, the chief marketing officer or COO, if they agree, then connect them, and they would appreciate a lot. Similarly, you should offer your mentorship. If you are willing to be mentor, then the best thing is that you become mentor for some employees outside finance department. And also, to further promote your brand in your organization, go to the HR and try to offer them or make a suggestion to initiate a formal mentorship program in your organization. See, whether they would do it or not, it's up to them. It's up to their caliber and their really level of maturity. But simply you, by making this suggestion, would improve your brand in the eyes of those people, and they would really appreciate that you think that way for the organization. So few tips. Let's talk about the Myers-Briggs personality type. And before I go there, I just need to let me have a quick look at the question box. So Shailesh, I think you are having problems seeing the slides. Now, okay. Prabhakar, low competent, low motivated employees, if do not improve the coaching, can be terminated. Yeah, that's exactly I was trying to mention. I didn't say that very clearly, but there are people who do not have much potential to improve or change. And if you keep trying with them, you are going to waste a lot of time. So my suggestion is that don't reject them immediately on the face. Make some assessments, take your time, but not too much or too long, because probably they are the people who are not going to change anyway. So it's a harsh reality, but that's a reality you need to face as a successful leader and manager. What is the reason for not mentoring own finance staff? Look, mentor-mentee relationship is a very different one. It's not a normal relationship. Uh, Many times you have to go out of way to convince them, to advise them. It's a personal relationship, and I think the problem I have having that relationship with my staff, it interferes with your formal relationship like boss and subordinate, where sometimes you have to, whether they like it or not, sometimes you have to give some directions to follow, and you have to get work done. It interferes with that role. So that's why I suggest that don't do that mentorship for your staff. If you want to do that, do for people outside your department. Also, from a mentee point of view, they would be more honest and open with you if they are not your direct report. For example, if someone from marketing, they will share in, of course, if you are a mentor for them, they would trust you. If they trust you, they will be very open to you. As in the same department, they might not be comfortable to share all the things with you. So it would not be very effective relationship as a mentor and mentee with your manager or with your staff. Okay, so I already sent you the link for this Myers-Briggs model 2 weeks ago. I'm not sure if you have a chance to look at that, but even if you did not look at that, I'll explain to you. So Myers-Briggs model is the most popular personality assessment model in the business organizations or HR circles. And basically, it talks about the 4 dimensions of personality, 4 dimensions. So, and each dimension has a pair. So extrovert, introvert is one dimension. Sensors and intuitive is another. Thinker and feelers is another. Judges and perceivers is another. So there are 4 dimensions, which 2 sets. So the total 16, I would say, characters are here. With these 4 dimensions, with each having a pair, there are 16 possibilities of your personality type. So after you go through the assessment, you pick one alphabet from each dimension. So for example, you can say that you are E, S, F, J. See, you cannot have the 2 characters from the same group or same dimension, but you will pick one each based on your assessment, and that becomes your personality type. So let me first explain these, what are these dimensions, and then we'll go to the personality types. So it starts with the 2 common personality types, extrovert and introvert. I think that's very common. But here we don't mean exactly the same thing by extrovert and introvert as we use in our usual language. Here, extrovert and introvert means, so let me just switch and back in these 2 slides. In this slide, you will see that one side is extroversion and other side is introversion. We use these characteristics to identify the source of energy, where you get most energy, being an introvert or extrovert. The examples are that extroverts are energized. I'm reading the text next to each dimension. Extroverts are energized by people, enjoy a variety of tasks, a quick place, and are good at multitasking, right? That's usually extroverts are. They want to be among people mainly. Introverts often like to working alone in small groups, prefer a more deliberate pace, and like to focus on one task at a time. That's introvert, right? So it's not good and bad, first of all. Extrovert are the people, if they want to do something, probably they would sit with a couple of other people and they would drive more energy and more work out of that. Introvert probably would go on their own and they would do and complete the work on their own. Now, let me give you my example. My personality style in the early life, student life especially, was more like introvert. I was an introvert. And for example, in the college and schools, in the study groups, many students would go into the study groups, like when exams come, the 3 or 4 people sit together for a study. I never found myself comfortable. I was always much more comfortable and much more productive on my own. So I would study on my own all night, but that is how I really get a lot accomplished. That was my introvert style. Now, I remained introvert for a long period of time. During my career, when I started to involve more and more with people outside finance especially, my style started to change. And I realized that I would become more extrovert. So now I was doing more group work, exercises, leading teams, doing projects, and I was much more productive and energized in those situations. So that is how you decide, you assess yourself whether you're extrovert or introvert. So personality style, the types may also change over a period of time. It doesn't change every day, every week, every month, but over a long period of time, 5 years, 10 years, it might change. In my case, it has changed, and in your case, it might have changed or will change. That's one dimension, extrovert, introvert, right? Second dimension is whether you are sensor or intuitive. Now, what does it mean here? Look at the second dimensions here, sensing or intuition. Way of gathering information. The way you gather the information, either you go by your senses or you have an intuitive feeling. Let's read the text here. Sensors are realistic people who like to focus on the facts and details, see, and apply common sense and past experience to come up with practical resolution to problem. Very logical, right? Very logical. This is what most people do. I do. But naturally, some people are different, and intuitives prefer to focus on possibilities and the big picture, easily see patterns, value innovations, and see creative solutions to problems. They don't go by much logic. And if you remember the discussion we had last time about the left brain and right brain, sensors are basically left brain people, and intuitives are the right brain people. Right brain people are more like moody. They really have a lot of creativity. Again, not good, not bad, nothing like that, different styles. And most left brain are more sensor. They go by logic, they go by systematic way of really getting information. So most finance people are really S in this case, but there are a lot of people who are intuitive, who just think in a random way and they get more done. Third dimension is whether you are a thinker or you're a feeler. So thinker and feeler, if you go back here, this is related to decision making. Either you make the decision making by thinking or you make the decision making by feeling. So let's go back. Thinkers tend to make decisions using logical analysis, objectively weigh pros and cons and value honesty, consistency, and framework. Very straightforward view, right? Very logical. Again, left brain, right brain. These are the left brain people. Very logical thinker, and in a systematic manner, they make decisions. On the other hand, there are people who are more like feelers, go by feeling. Feelers tend to be sensitive and cooperative and decide based on their own personal values and how others will be affected by their actions. Let me take an example here. Suppose you were not sure about your current job, so you were looking for a job, a new offer, and you got a new offer. But new offer is very parallel. There might be good things and bad things, so you are not sure whether you should move to the new job or stick with your current job, right? Now you're making a decision maker. If you're a thinker, probably you will sketch a chart and start to compare, this is my salary, this is my commute, this is my boss, this is my environment, this is my challenge, and compare these two things logically and make a decision whether your current job is better or the new job, right? You are thinker. But it is also possible, maybe you have a different personality, you say, yeah, I did all the analysis, but still I'm not feeling comfortable to move to the new job. I still feel somehow, I cannot explain that, but somehow I feel that I need to stay with the job. That's the feeling, that's the feelers. And many people have very strong ability to feel correctly, rightly, right? Some people call it sixth sense, that my sixth sense was telling me something and I couldn't do that. All the logic is saying that move to left and you said no. Something inside me is telling me move to right, and that was right. Probably you made the right move. That's thinker and feelers, right? Next dimension of the personality is judgers and perceivers. So let's look at the second slide first. Judgment and perception is related to how you relate to the external world, how you interact with the world, right? So let's go back here. Judges tend to be organized and prepared, like to make and stick to plans, and are more comfortable following most rules. Very organized people, very formal people, right? Again, not something good or bad, but different styles. Perceivers are prefer to keep their options open a little bit, like to be able to act spontaneously, and like to be flexible with making plans. So if you are going on a vacation, if you are judger, you will say, let me plan exactly. what date we'll leave, and then we'll arrive at this time, this place, and from there we will book another tour and we'll go these places. The first day we are covering these places, second day this, third day we'll do this, final, and probably you will also make advanced booking for all those things. You are judger. Perceivers are, you say, okay, I'm going to this destination, fantastic place, and we'll see what fun we have over there. Let's see, let's go there first, and then we'll decide. Those perceivers, right? So again, both are not good or not bad, but different styles. And perceivers, that is how they interact with the world. So purpose of the Myers-Briggs personality type is to identify your style. And how you identify, you go through some assessments on your own or through some tools, and then you identify whether you are extrovert or introvert, or sensor or intuitive, or thinker or feeler, and judges or perceiver. And then you identify 4 letters to describe your personality style. So in my case, it's INFP. INFP. Sorry, ENFP, I'm sorry, currently. So currently I'm an extrovert, I'm intuitive, I'm feeler, I'm perceiver. ENFP. I used to be, early part of my life, I used to be ISFJ. Early part of life. Then my introvert extrovert changed. So from I moved to E. I remained in the N side. I become more F, and I also shifted from J to P. So I become ENFP, right? Now, if you go to this, so I shared this with you 2 weeks earlier. This is what I said. Now, if you understand this scheme of this, how you are assessed, go to the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator website. I have given you the link, www.Myers-Briggs. This has very good information. Try to go through some of the information there and try to make yourself more familiar with this personality type. They offer a personality assessment test, but they charge a lot of money, $150 to $175. Now you can do very cheaply if you go to another site I suggested you, Human Metrics, and this is free. It would give you not exactly the same, more or less the same type of result. It's free online assessment, and you would know what your style is. But this is an unofficial site, so I'm just sharing with you. I'm not suggesting you should go to the site, or I'm not suggesting that you should spend $150 or $175. I'm just sharing with you, and you see yourself. Now, when you assess yourself, it's not a big deal. You may feel good that yes, this is my style, or you may not feel good, this is not my style. It's okay. Either way, it's okay. If you're not satisfied, give some break and do the same assessment again after 2 weeks, and you may find different results. It is also possible that you say that yes, I recognize this is my style, but I don't want to be an introvert. My assessment is based on my habits, based on my practices, based on my style. It comes out that I'm an introvert in this assessment, but I don't want to be that, so I want to change that. Yeah, make efforts. Make efforts. Look at the criteria, how you are assessed on the test, and try to change your habits. You can change your personality type. By the way, the Myers-Briggs website also gives you advice by profession. That, for example, it would say that if you want to become a business leader, or if you want to be an entrepreneur, probably this style is better for you. Or if you want to be a CFO or marketing manager, probably this style is better for you. So this is an opportunity for you to fine-tune your style with what you want to be. So it's not that it's God gifted, we cannot change it. It's not like your gender that you cannot change it. Also, people are also able to change genders nowadays. But you can always drive your personality, especially if you want to. So that is why this tool is very, very useful. Many organizations also use to assess their senior level employees on this. But here, if you go on your own and try to understand yourself and see what is good for you, it would be very helpful. This is part of your self-assessment or self-awareness. And this is the assignment I already shared with 2 weeks ago. As I said, that if you have not been able to done it, then probably this is the time, go through it. And then number 2 is the leadership assessment. I'm not sure if you did it, but that's also another way to really see where you stand today and what you need to improve. So let me look back at the questionnaire again, question box. Yeah, I think Faraz has already tested. Yeah, 16 personalities. That's another very good link. So you can also try Faraz if you could share with the people. It stands for www.16personalities.com. So it's very easy to remember. And if you go there, that would also help you to identify some personality types. Yeah, Pankaj, it's a good question that when you are making an assessment on different dimensions, and for example, your assessment says that you are an introvert, it doesn't mean that you are 100% introvert. It's basically telling that you have more tendency to be introvert than extrovert. As a matter of fact, every person have all dimensions of personality. Every person has some part introvert, some part extrovert. Every person has some part thinking, some part feeling, and same goes for other. So assessment only tells you that you are more like introvert or more like extrovert. Some tests would even tell you that you are 60% introvert, 40% introvert. Some would not tell you. So if you really don't like it, then go to those detailed tests which would tell you that how much am I introvert and how much extrovert. If you are 60-40, probably it's easier shift for you, that you could change it other way around, 40-60. But if it is 90% introvert, 10% extrovert, you have to make a lot of effort. So with that level of detail, I think it would give you more understanding and ability how much control you have to changing those personality styles. Okay, so the next topic I need to cover today is related to the employee enablement versus engagement. And this topic is relevant because many times we talk about employee engagement a lot of time. It's basically considered a very positive environment or positive approach that if your employees are engaged. Well, there is new research which says that if your employees are engaged but not, if you don't enable them, it's even more dangerous, because engaged employees are motivated, but if they cannot really accomplish something for which they are motivated, they may become frustrated. So what do we mean by employee enablement? Engagement without enablement leads to frustration and disappointment. Employee enablement means, as a manager, as a leader, as an organization, you have to make process simplified for them. Simplified work processes, that's one. Skills and alignment, skills aligned with work demands. So whatever their role is, you need to ensure they have the right skills. And then reward system. Now, some people say that I'm not here for money, but look, money or non-money, reward system work very strongly in any cultural environment. And finally, work-life integration. You cannot really ignore this. People talk about work-life balance, and my philosophy, there is no work-life balance. In today's high demanding environment, you have to integrate your life. That is the only way to really do justice with your family, with your personal life and your work life. Now, why it is important is the changing environment, changing business models. It's much more complex world we are living today. It's a lot more fun. We have a lot of facilities and really luxuries and things like smartphones. We are busy all the time and really having fun. But it's also a lot more complicated, which means that business processes are changing all the time and it's becoming complex. So as a manager or as a leader, if you don't take care to make it simpler for your employees, you're not doing your job, and your employees would not be able to do their job. Similarly, work demands are changing, roles are changing, and what is not changing as much is the job descriptions or requirement for their skills and qualifications. So you need to, it's your responsibility as a manager or leader to ensure that whatever there is demand on the role of your people, they are also trained and skilled. It doesn't mean that they have to have a mechanical engineering degree. Many times with the soft skills you could learn very quickly. So if someone is suddenly moved from a back-end job to a front-end job, now they need to talk a lot to the people, and maybe they need to talk a lot to the customers. Maybe a communication training is good for them. Maybe interpersonal skills would really help them a lot. So that is a skill alignment with work demand. In the reward system, some positions have, but usually at the junior level, there are no reward system, and they are supposed to work a lot. And work-life integration. So Hay Group, which is a well-known HR consulting organization globally, they made this research, and this is their finding that companies talk a lot about the employees' engagement, and employees' engagement comes from, if you look at the orange box on the left side, clear promising directions and confidence in leaders and customer focus and respect and recognition and developmental opportunities, pay and benefit. All these create engagement, but that's not enough. Employee need to perform. Employee need to deliver results. And to deliver results, they need to have the performance management, authority and empowerment, training, collaboration, resources, and work structure and process. That is the most important thing they have to have. So analogy I share to explain this, let's say best of the best company in the world. Let's say, assume for a moment that Apple is the best company in the world, right? So you take best employee from the best company and put this employee into a very lousy company in a different environment. What that person would do if that person is not supported by structure, processes, leadership, culture, environment. Even not an average employee. Let's take the CEO, for example. Let's take the Tim Cook, the current CEO of Apple, very outstanding, successful leader. Take Tim Cook and ask him to manage a very lousy company somewhere in Bangladesh. Would he be successful? I think he would fail in a couple of weeks very quickly. So you need a lot of enablers to be successful. So this is coming from Hay Group. And then Hay Group also has some statistical numbers to prove that based on their research. For us, for this session, for you as a manager, also as an employee. So I don't know which position you are as an employee or the manager or leader, but anyway, this is good to learn. What do we mean by enablement? So what is meant by simplified work processes? So one thing is that nowadays technology is very cheap. So try to automate processes as much as possible. In one organization I was working few years as a CFO, of course. So I look at the payable process, which was very complicated. A lot of people were working, and I knew some automation involving the banks. So we talked to the to our banks, and we fully automated it. That becomes a lot more simpler. And also for the employees who are the payable administrator who are working over there with that manual process. Now, when it comes to the delegation, some people are good, some people are not. And it's really not intentional. It's more based on your personality. The main reason people don't delegate is the job security issues. Most reason. You may be exception, but the most people, that is the common reason. And even if they try to delegate, doesn't work because they only try to delegate some superficial task, not the responsibility. Now, you need to resolve that if that is an issue. So first of all, develop the confidence and delegate responsibility. Now, if you are progressive, if you have self-confidence, if you are learning and growing, what happens when you delegate responsibility? You as a leader or manager get more responsibility. That is the only way to progress your career. I see many controllers who are badly tied up in the work and they are looking to become CFO, but the reason they cannot be promoted to CFO because there is no successor to take over their job. They controlled and dominated all the work just for the slow job security. Now they became victim of it because they cannot find, the company cannot find another person to do those jobs. So this person, this poor chap is not promoted. So you need to really create successors for you to take additional responsibility. And you have to have the develop the required confidence for that. And for required confidence, you need to learn faster a lot of new things. In your department, if there are people, ask each one to write their own process manual. Process owners, especially. For example, I mentioned about the receivable administrator in payable. Ask that person to write down the process, a process manual. And that would two benefits. Not only that they would write down the process, they would understand it better, and they would identify the weaknesses and they would work on it, because now it becomes their own baby. They take ownership of that. For each critical position, you need to create a backup support, because people go on vacation, people will get absent for some reason, and critical position, as I said, like payable administrator, receivable administrator, always find person from another section who could do that job. So that person, for example, you take a inventory accountant working in warehouse and ask that person to learn the receivable administrator job. It's not that they need to learn everything. They need to learn to an extent where they could do that job for a temporary period of time when the receivable administrator is on vacation. Now, again, two benefits. You have the backup for everyone. So in case they suddenly leave or they are absent, you have another person to work. It also gives you opportunity to sort of controls, because if someone is sitting on their role for a long period of time, what has been happening is not revealed unless someone else is there. And many frauds and wrongdoings happen, are discovered when someone else looking at those jobs. So that's a very useful practice. For broader processes, like where they involve different departments, like order to cash, that involves the sales department and the finance department and the treasury department. For those processes, create cross-functional teams. Take one person from finance, one person from treasury, one person from sales, and ask them to bring improvement to this process. And usually, as a team, they will come out for something more useful, more robust. So that's a few tips to improve the work processes or make it simple. And also, within finance, identify a person who could become a finance process champion. This is a person who is very progressive, very smart, very outgoing, and very result oriented. And you basically assign this person to all the time work on improving the processes. So you work from process to process. He has a good PR around the organization. Of course, you have to have the size of the organization to justify this type of position, but it works very well. Usually you would find in large organization a person called black belt or master black belt. They do this type of job. Skills alignment with work demands. Ask each staff member to develop their own job description. So they might have, they might not have it, right? At many organizations, they have the job description. People have not referred to them for a long period of time, and you don't have time to really do that. So ask everyone to write down their own job description. They must be able to do it. If they cannot really write down their own job description, something is wrong there. And also ask them, or you work with them once the job description is there, what type of skills are required for that job based on their written job description. And then let them do a self-assessment, that what are the demands of the job and what skills you already have, what are their gaps. Again, you have to deal it in a very positive manner, because people might think that you are preparing to fire them, right? So it has to be taken care very carefully. Once the gaps are identified, two things. Most probably there are small gaps. So you train them, you send them on training, or you arrange training or motivate them to learn few new things. But if the gap is really larger, 40–50% and more, then you basically, I would still not suggest to fire them, but change their job where they are more suitable. That would be the first opportunity. So that is how you could align skills with the work demands. And try to get training budget for your department. If you are the manager or you are the leader, you are director, you are CFO, try to get as much training budget as possible. Now, many leaders and managers don't do that. First of all, there is a natural lack of responsibility. It's not for you or not for me. Why should I worry about? But again, it's related to your coaching leadership style. If you want to really coach and help people develop, you need to bring resources. So that's one thing. Change your mindset if you need to. Number two, many people underestimate the potential of their employer to provide training. With, oh, my work organization is going through a crisis. There is cost reduction. I cannot ask. They even don't ask. Now, believe me, in my long career, I have broken that myth several times. I worked for two organizations. Well, I went to Harvard 2 times, let me put it this way. And one organization who sent me was a large bank, so not a problem for them. But other organization, mid-size company, never ever a person went to Harvard from that company, nominated, never ever. So I challenged myself and I asked my boss to really send me to a training program, strategy training program on Harvard. It was expensive. And boss has to ask his boss. Long story short, it worked out. There was few frictions, but ultimately it worked out. And I could tell you, that was probably the first and last time they sent anyone to Harvard, because nobody could dare ask that again. But I asked and it happened. So don't underestimate the potential of your employer. You should have a liberal budget for training, because the more training you would provide to your people, more people would develop and groom themselves, which means there is more opportunities for promotion, which means more opportunity for you. You want yourself to be pushed from the bottom. Your staff should really grow and develop faster, so you grow in faster to take more responsible positions and roles. Reward system. As I said, in many organizations, there are no reward system for junior level people, only for the very senior. So if there is nothing, don't depend on the corporate reward system. I think if you're a manager, leader, director, CFO, you could create your own system within your authority and means. So extensively use your authority to reward your people, and use a general approach of generosity. Don't be scared with a scarce mindset. When you reward people generously, you will see also generosity in their performance and their work back. It may take some time, but it works really. And it's not about the money rewards only. In your authority, you may have the authority to really give them flexible hours, give them opportunity to work from home once in a while or once in a week. Anything you could do that comfortably. Also focus on their career development and professional development. I think we covered already that. Create recognitions that make people proud. So as I said, it's not about money. For example, if you introduce a scheme of Employee of the Month, people take a lot of pride in it. They feel much important, and it really helps them to get motivated. Now, you don't spend anything from your pocket or from organization, but it's a recognition. So there is a lot more way, non-financial, non-monetary recognition, which works very, very effectively. And also authorize your people. So if you are CFO and there is a controller who has 5 people or 4 people working for them, give your controller a flexibility to reward his or her own people. That is how you expand that system in the organization. And I find many people really having authority of promotions and reward, and they don't do it. They don't do it. I mean, it's not that you're not doing for your people. You're also killing yourself, because you're encouraging a behavior of scarcity in your mind. I would say if you have to make a mistake to reward your people, do it more rewarding people. Make a mistake on more rewarding side rather than less or legitimate rewarding to them. Work-life integration, very important. So first of all, respect the personal life of your staff. Now, in my entire career, I could tell you, now there are occasions and situations where people need some time off for personal reason, and then you have something very important on the work side. Now you have, as a leader, you are very sensitive for both things. Personal life is very, very important. Family life is very, very important. And also the work, you have obligation and commitment. So that becomes a very tricky situation. Now in those situations, which happen many times, I never put pressure on my employees. People work for me. I always put the criteria in front of them. I said, look, you understand the nature of this job, work or task yourself, urgency or importance, you understand it better than me because you do it. Now you also understand your family situation or your personal situation much better than me. I'm delegating the responsibility to you to make a decision yourself whether you need to stay and do that job and leave that job and leave that task and go and attend your personal or family matters. I always try to delegate very honestly, very sincerely. And I could tell you 9 out of 10 times they have made the decision to stay for the task to do and they manage something. It's not that it was not a threat, very important. I did not threaten them. I was very honest, sincere in suggesting this, and they took it very sincerely and honestly, and they made an honest decision. But 9 out of 10 times, they stayed for the task rather than attending the personal matter. So that is how you respect their personal life. You never intervene that. I never ever can think that someone says that this is very important for my family or my personal life, and I would refuse that vacation or refuse that time. Never ever. The worst come to worst is that I delegate the authority to themselves and let them make a decision. So as I said, show your flexibility. If your organization permits, your culture permits, there is flexibility, provide opportunities to work from home. If that makes them comfortable, if the commute is very long, once in a week, one day in a week, I have availed that myself many times, because probably my manager was not that generous. I would ask them that, look, one day out of a week when there is not much meetings, not much, I have to be here physically, can I stay from home? And that was a CFO-CEO relationship, by the way, with senior level position. And they said yes. And that's what I availed. That made me work a lot easier and doable. I always suggest you to try to develop a few close friendship at work. Some people don't advise it, but I advise that. Similarly, try to make your family life not fully transparent. I mean, there are you know better what is to be discussed, but try to be comfortable sharing your family life with your people around you. So they know your family, they know you, and they become comfortable. And once you do that, they would also share similar things, that they would reciprocate. That bring a very positive social environment where you guys are comfortable and you know those people. Not only the employee, but also their family at least. So see yourself, because this is different for different people. Some people have a very comfortable level, some people may not, but this is something you need to think about. Okay, and support their families of your employees, the people who report to you. Try to be supportive in whatever manner. And one example we suggested, that if they have to attend something on the part of family, then you always try to make them available for the family, or worst come to worst, you leave the decision on them. But you should always try to be supportive. Look, work life, the personal life is very important. Work life balance, you call it, or integration, is very, very important. And unfortunately, we corporate professionals spend the best part of our life at work. So we need to be at least recognize that part and try to be supportive as much as possible. And work-life integration based on this research really creates a lot of positivity into the relationship and the environment. Okay, so the 2 books I think I already suggested you. Primal Leadership is a leadership as well as the emotional intelligence. Very good, very practical book. And the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I already suggested you. Hopefully you have got that book and started reading. If not, then this is the time. So folks, let me look back at your question box one more time. What about promoting cross-function mobility? Talented individuals should be given options to work on different areas. They might have initial large skill gaps, but then allow time to develop them. Absolutely, absolutely. The only limitation is that some organizations do not have the size and capacity that they could afford to cross-functional training and development, but large organizations always do that. Companies like General Electric and Motorola or Philips, they always rotate people. There are many large corporations have the induction plans where they bring some students from the college, like fresh MBAs or that level, and then they let them develop through the rotation in different departments. I have done that many times through the cross-functional teams. So if the organization does not have a formal plans, you should encourage that by cross-functional working. So create a team, like I said, process order to cash, and pick 3 people, one from finance accounting, one from sales, one from treasury or supply chain, and let them work on that process. How could you improve it? Let them brainstorm. So you're not only training them on cross-functional thing, you're also giving them empowerment, and they are feeling better. They are feeling more empowered and more responsible. That's one way. Another way to really groom and develop them. What should be the deciding factor to change one's personality style? Should be solely based on MBTI test, and should one go against one natural personality style? No, Shailesh, I would not suggest that. That's what I said, that first of all, there is no one test is sufficient for this purpose. You should not rely on one test and say that I need to change my personality. So do several tests, several different tools, and based on that, you may find that, look, there is a pattern. There is a pattern. There are certain things I do in a certain way, and that's my style. That's number two. Then you need to see that, do you really want to change that? Now, there are few habits you can change. There are few habits you cannot change. And the ones you cannot change, only you know it better. And you should not try to change them, because even if you are able to change that, it might fire back. You may not be able to get benefit, rather than you get negative results from that. Now, another very important factor to be considered in this type of decision making is that the how long you have been living with a certain style. So if you are already in your 50s and you have been that way all of your life, probably it's not really worthwhile to try to change that style. Now, everything is possible, but you would be taking a lot of strain on yourself. You would be burning a lot of your energy if you do that. So you also need to be conscious, this is called a reality check, that how practical and how feasible, how pragmatic is that really. And of course, as if you are younger, 20s, 30s is easier, although it may still take a lot of struggle and challenge, but that's easier. And how long you have been in that particular style of leadership, all these things really matter. So it's a very personal decision that you need to consider with careful thought. If you like a role, you have an ambition to move certain positions, and you don't have the right personality, you can work to change the personality. And if the personality is not changeable, maybe you can change your ambition. I was always early part of my life, or early part of my career, I was very inspired by the marketing people, even sales people. I was very inspired that they're outgoing, dashing people, create a lot of results. But I realized at the time that I'm sort of introvert at that time. And I said I would never be successful in marketing and sales. So I did an MBA, and not many people go to finance after MBA. But I did an MBA, and based on my thinking at that time that I may not be successful in sales and marketing, I went to finance. And although I don't regret going to finance now, but probably I could have been more successful in sales and marketing, realizing that my style has the capacity and capability to change from introvert to extrovert. So you never know. That is why I said it's a very personal decision, and you need to take it very, very cautiously, very seriously, and then make a very cautious decision on it. Okay, so the questions keep coming, and I keep replying. So let me see this one. If I get a specific personality type, how can I take maximum benefit out of it? So Pankaj, look at the, as I said, that the literature I mentioned, Myers-Briggs website, they have a lot of good information, different personality types suitable to different professions. And there are also additional lot of books and literature you could Google. Go through that stuff and see that if there is a personality style and you want to make best out of it, what could be more useful, what type of adventures, what type of opportunities and challenges you should take. That would be significantly helpful. That is actually the purpose of this, this learning here, that understanding, creating self-awareness of our personality type, and see how could we make best out of it, either by changing the personality a little bit or changing our ambition. Okay, folks, looks like I have run out of the questions now, and also the clock is telling me this is the time to end. So these were the 3 sessions for this authentic leadership. This is a very important topic actually for all of you, whether you are already in a senior level leadership position or not. It's very important, because end of the day, this really matters. Your leadership style, your leadership profile, how do you deal with the people around you, how do you deliver the results? So pay attention to it. And we have shared a lot of stuff in the last 3 sessions. And as you know that we are covering a framework in the next 3-4 months, as I said, the rest of the year, we are also going to cover the other very important leadership competencies. And so we have a 2 weeks gap now. So hopefully we'll get back together on 16th of September. In the meantime, if you have any question, you can always send me through email. Otherwise, thank you very much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.